Welcome to The Fight on Matrix Midwest with Randy Karraker and company.
Hi, everyone, and happy Monday. Hope you had a good weekend. We've got a lot coming your way here on The Fight on Matrix Midwest, where we had a game over the weekend. The Blues took on the Winnipeg Jets on Saturday night right here on Matrix Midwest. And Andrew Rogers and I were thrilled, and we're thrilled that we're going to have even more Blues hockey for you coming up. And then last night, we got to see Hully score a couple of goals, 49 and 50 in 50 from back in 1990-91. A lot of cool things happening here at Matrix Midwest.
Oh, definitely. It was one of my favorite parts of the weekend, and especially that Brett Hull game, because for me, I never got to see it live. So just seeing all of the old elements of TV, all of the old elements of hockey all in one place, it was great.
And by the way, as we get started, could you believe how much faster today's game is than that?
It's unbelievable.
It looked like they were skating in slow motion.
It did, and there was that point in time where he scored his 50th goal, and I'm watching the play get set up and thought, holy cow, like, why is nobody attacking? Why is nobody pressuring the puck handler?
It was a completely different game, and we've got a lot of Blues classics for you coming up Sunday nights here on Matrix Midwest. Anyway, we've got a lot coming your way today, too. The Cardinals started Grapefruit League play. What could have been a great weekend for the Blues turned out to be only good, and good is the enemy of great. And we're going to do some betting later in the show as well. Wait till you see today's parlay. You got to stick around for that. But first, we had a thriller between the Blues and the Jets Saturday night right here on Matrix Midwest. Blues scored a couple of goals in the third period, but Gabe Vilardi scored an empty netter for Winnipeg with 27.6 seconds left to tie the game, and Winnipeg won in a shootout. What a heartbreaker for the Blues on Saturday night.
Yeah, that's one that you just can't let happen. But the Jets are a very good team. Vilardi was very good in this game as well. There were some positive takeaways, like Robert Thomas finding a way to net some shots, Buchnevich as well. So don't dwell on this and move forward.
Yeah, and then last night, Colorado scored in the first, but the Blues got goals last night from Schenn, Parayko, and Holloway in the second and won 3-1. So they were able to take 3 out of 4 points over the weekend, and that was impressive for the Blues coming out of the break and doing so against Winnipeg and Colorado, two playoff teams right now. Both teams, by the way, last night were playing back-to-backs. Colorado had played in Nashville the night before. The Blues, of course, had played here. Jordan Binnington turning aside 28 of 29 shots in last night's game. And for the weekends, the Blues, Andrew, didn't allow a goal in 3 penalty kills, and they scored on their only power play chance. So if you want to say it this way, the special teams were perfect over the course of the weekend. And the specialty teams for the Blues have been horrific. They're bottom 5 in the league. They have not been good. So you get practice on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for most of the team, except for Parayko and Jordan Binnington, and Jim Montgomery trying to get things in place for his team. And one of the things they need is time under their coach. But we know he knows special teams. We know the Blues have the ability, especially on the power play, to score. And it seems like they're starting to get things going there.
That was the number that needed to improve just in general for the Blues. It was a situation where unless that were to happen, they were not going to make any sort of playoff push. And the direction was at that point in time, well, let's bring up some of the young guys. Let's not worry about, finding a way to possibly, make a playoff push. But instead, the Blues actually have a decent schedule. Like, not a super difficult schedule. There are some playoff teams in there, but the lower-ended playoff teams to where March could actually be a different story for them. Imagine if they're a playoff team. Imagine if they could make some type of push and put together a magical run. Imagine is the key word here. It's probably a rare thing, but it could happen.
I love people that have wild imaginations, right? You've got a wild
That's why I'm sitting next to RK.
I will tell you this, though, and Pavel Buchnevich had his best game under Jim Montgomery since Montgomery returned on Saturday night. And I know that Monty has been disappointed in the performance of Pavel Buchnevich. He's a different player, Buchnevich is, than the one that Jim Montgomery coached when he was here with the Blues as an assistant coach. He's been, ever since the contract, he's been just a dramatic disappointment. Goal and 2 assists on Saturday, and hopefully they can get Buchnevich going. I was talking to people last night at the rink, and people still believe, and I have believed this for a long time, that Pavel Buchnevich is the most gifted hockey player that the Blues have. But the performance isn't translating at this point. It'd be nice to get him back because you've got him for a while now.
Yeah, well, you're locked into a large portion of that contract. No one's going to take on Buchnevich unless he is producing out there on the ice. And when he's not, well, it not only does that hurt the Blues, but it also hurts his trade opportunities as well, at least for Army, that is. But you're right. Buchnevich is a player that the Blues need to get going because he was that guy that you relied on to put the puck in the net. They don't have a goal scorer on this team. There's a smattering of players that can score, but there's nobody that can score consistently. And his numbers have been down all season long. If they could get them going again, think about where the Blues could be moving forward. Not even just this season, but moving forward into next season and what that could do when you mix in a lot of those young guys to a line like his.
And you are going to get between 30 and 40 out of Kyrou. You should get between 30 and 40 out of Buchnevich. If you have those two performing at that level, and then you can mix in whoever it might be. Neighbors had 27 last year. Can you get Jake Neighbors back to that 27 plateau? When you get Snuggerud here or Dvorsky, or those guys capable of being 25 to 30 goal guys, you're going to have to crowdsource scoring if you're the Blues because you aren't going to have that guy that's Austin Matthews scoring 60 for you. But you can win that way. The Blues have proven that in the past. In 2019, they won the Stanley Cup without a big-time sniper. But the point is you have to have a lot of different people scoring between 25, 35, and 40 rather than one guy that's going to score you 60. That's the way the Blues are going to be built. And by the way, they're going to go out and sign a free agent that automatically becomes their highest paid player either. We know Doug Armstrong's history, and we know that when he takes over, Alexander Steen is going to have the same philosophy. You're going to have a lot of guys that are paid similarly, that are going to be a group of players as your highest paid player. You aren't going to have a $13, $14 million player on the Blues at any time in the near future.
And this Blues team just needs to be a team that does the little things right. That's how you're going to separate yourselves from every other team in the league. You don't want to become the Colorado Avalanche because you can't become them based stylistically on who they are. But if you do the little things right, if you fine-tune those details, you can compete with any team and beat them at their own game.
The Blues host Seattle tomorrow, and then they head out for 7 of 8 on the road against mostly playoff teams. And the Blues, they actually have a winning record on the road and a losing record at home, but they have to dominate on the road against really good teams. And I think the next couple of weeks, Andrew, will tell us, you talked about the possibility of the playoffs. I don't think that there's a real chance. Right?
It's a reach.
Yeah, there's too much runway that is already passed. That you don't have enough to be able to take off. But if you're going to hope to be in there in the last 2 weeks of the season, you have to dominate on the road during the next 2 weeks of the season.
And you have to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat, like the Ducks. They play the Ducks twice early in March. You can compete with the LA Kings. They play them twice as well. There is a way that the Blues can find their way into playoff position. It's just going to be a large hill to climb.
Later in the show, you can help us build a parlay. All you need to do is go to DraftKings and find a single bet. Could be any bizarre bet that you like.
Bizarre
keyword. There are bizarre bets on DraftKings, and you're going to see one later on. All you need to do is find a bet, send it to us. Andrew is going to make a bet. I'll make a bet. You make a bet. We'll put them all together and build a 3-leg parlay. Text in 314-624-0414. And if you don't have that number already in your phone, save it in your phone. 314-624-0414. Just label it The Fight. And then if you have any questions, we'll answer them later too. Any sports questions, any Blues, Cardinals questions, we'll answer those later in the show with Just Askin' But. Text in or email us at thefight@matrixmidwest.com. MLB.com reported on Saturday that the Astros had re-engaged the Cardinals about Nolan Arenado and a deal to send him to Houston. Our Cardinal insider here on The Fight, Katie Wu of The Athletic, then reported that Cardinals Pobo John Mozeliak says there's nothing to see here. 3 very accomplished reporters, though, MLB.com national writer Mark Feinstein, Astros writer Brian McTaggart, and Cardinal beat reporter John Denton have multiple sources that say Arenado could be willing to waive his no-trade clause. I'll tell you what, I love the drama here, first of all. You got to love the fact that we love the transaction. We like rumors, and we like, ultimately, the transaction. If this thing goes until the last week of spring training and then the Cardinals trade him during the last week of spring training, hell, that's when the Cardinals got Jim Edmonds in the last week of spring training. That's fun. That's good. If we get to talk about the possibility of trades and trade rumors throughout the course of spring training, I'm good with that. I think it'll be fun.
And trading a star in baseball is fun to talk about. If it was just a random role player, it's like, okay, we're talking about a future Hall of Famer here, possibly ending up on a different team. That's the most most fun of it all. But I think here for Arenado, if he is thinking about revisiting with the Astros or revisiting his no trade clause list, maybe it's in due because of the lack of the market showing him some love. And he's like, oh, maybe my options aren't as strong as I thought they would be. And if I do really want to win, if winning a World Series matters that much to me, this could be the spot to do it. I didn't think Christian Walker being added to that team would, move the needle for the Astros. But Vegas does.
He's a good player.
Vegas looks at the Astros right now as the 6th best team to win a World Series. That could matter for Arenado.
And you add Arenado, Gold Glove at third base, Walker, Gold Glove at first base, then all of a sudden you've got something. Now, if it's true that there's nothing if John Mozeliak is telling us, please disperse, there's nothing to see here, please disperse, then why have the Astros moved Jose Altuve from second base to left field? Why would they do that if they didn't have plans to add an infielder? Now, they have Isaac Paredes, who's playing at third base right now. There was talk when they were interested in bringing Alex Bregman back that Paredes would move to second, Altuve would move to left, and Bregman would return to third. So my question is, if it's not going to be Nolan Arenado on the infield for the Astros, then why is Jose Altuve moving to left? This is a mystery that must be solved.
Is it Dubon right now at second? Is that who it is?
Maurizio Dubon.
Dubon is currently at second.
And they signed the old Rockies infielder who's he's not very good.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing here is there's nobody at second base better than Jose Altuve on that team.
No.
So the fact
and Dubon, by the way, is an outfielder.
Right. And so the fact if Altuve's willing to say, like, for this team to be great, I'm willing to change positions. Why move there if I felt so comfortable here for all of these years? It's a fun mystery to try to solve.
And if you want to try to solve the mystery, let's take a look at what the Cardinals do during spring training, because we mentioned it could happen in the last week before spring training. If you start to see Nolan Gorman getting reps at third and Nolan Arenado as the designated hitter for the Cardinals during the course of spring training games, that's going to be a clue as well. These things sometimes take time, and the key here, there's another factor at play, is Nolan Arenado being willing to accept a trade to Houston. But if everything comes together and in the last week of spring training they put a deal together, it won't be a surprise. And I think the Cardinals' confidence in their ability to get this done will be told to us by how many reps Nolan Gorman gets at third.
I couldn't agree more. For me, it's as simple as this too. There's a lot of factors at play for Nolan Arenado. And at some point in time, you have to think about the off-field stuff as much as the on-field stuff. And if he really wants to relocate his family, the words under his roof right now need to be, I need to do this. And it needs to be met with the response of, I know.
So it'll be fun to keep an eye on. And by the way, the Cardinals opened up their spring training schedule this week. Not a very good pitching performance, and we're going to talk about that later on in the show. Basketball, 15th ranked Mizzou lost to Arkansas 92-85 Saturday night at Bud Walton Arena. But Oklahoma beat Mississippi State, and Vandy knocked off Ole Miss. So right now, Auburn, Florida, and Alabama are running the conference. They are the top tier, those three teams. But then Mizzou, Texas A&M, and Tennessee are all 9-5. Ole Miss is 8-6. So Tier 2 is 4 teams, and as we saw on Saturday night, anything can happen in SEC basketball.
And for Mizzou, I saw a lot of negativity surrounding this team. And yes, this is not a game that Mizzou should have lost, but you have to look at everything that played into the loss. You didn't have Josh Gray. Interiorly, is that a word?
Yes,
interiorly?
it is now.
Interiorly, sure. They gave up over 40 points in the paint. That matters when you're missing your big man. Your best shooter on your team went 2 for 12. Sometimes you just have a bad night, a tough night. Don't look too deeply into this Mizzou loss. It wasn't like they were going to be a 2 seed in the tournament anyway. That was a long shot. They could still be a 4 seed. They could still get that first round bye in SEC play because of everything else that happened on Saturday.
And next up for the Tigers, South Carolina comes to Mizzou Arena tomorrow night for an 8 p.m. tip-off. Coming up, there is a lot going on, including the use of the robot umpire in baseball. That's part of Quick Hits next on The Fight here on Matrix Midwest. Well, folks, I've told you before about my experience with St. Luke's Heart and Vascular Center. I had my quadruple bypass there when I was 49, and Dr. Rinder, my cardiologist, did a spectacular job, and I'm so thrilled that St. Luke's is now part of the fight. They're the only hospital in the St. Louis area to have an alliance with the Cleveland Clinic Heart and Vascular and Thoracic Institute, and it's the only hospital in Missouri named as one of America's 50 best hospitals for cardiac surgery by Healthgrades in 2025. St. Luke's has had that designation for 7 years in a row now, and that puts St. Luke's in the top 2% in the nation in terms of heart hospitals. St. Luke's has again been recognized as a best hospital in 14 categories by U.S. News and World Report, named one of the best hospitals in the state of Missouri and the best regional hospital. That's why I use St. Luke's for all of my health care. For 14 years in a row, St. Luke's achieved the Healthgrades Outstanding Patient Experience Award, and the only hospital in Missouri to do so. Their doctors have a great bedside manner, I know firsthand, and they treat you as a real person, not just a customer that happened to stop in. Healthgrades recognized St. Luke's as one of America's 50 best hospitals for vascular surgery last year. I go to St. Luke's, as I mentioned, for all my health care, and I'm here because of their heart and vascular department. It's terrible to have a medical issue and have to wait a couple of months for an appointment. You don't do that at St. Luke's. If you need a second opinion, they'll provide it for you almost immediately with expedited appointments. Even if you're looking for that second opinion, they're going to do it for you right away. Your heart diagnosis deserves a second look, and you deserve to feel confident in your treatment plan. At St. Luke's Heart and Vascular Institute, they pour their hearts into taking care of yours. Call 314-205-6801 today, 314-205-6801 for world-class compassionate treatment. Andrew, I'm bummed. The Cardinals left Sem Robertsay, great name. They left him in the game to get pounded for 9 hits and 9 runs by Houston yesterday. 7 of those runs were earned, so there were some errors behind him. But when you allow 9 runs in 2/3 of an inning in your second spring training game, what's up with that? I can't believe that Oli Marmol and the Cardinals would decide to do that.
This is a classic case of keep a young pitcher in the game and see how he faces adversity. It may have been a little bit too long, and there is something as too long in baseball because this could just kill the confidence of a young pitcher. But at the same time, it is spring training. You have to remember, and this is what you have to tell him when he comes off the field, this doesn't go against how we think true stats. So think about it from that perspective versus why we left you in so long.
Sometimes any pitcher, though, young pitcher, veteran guy, is going to say, what the hell are they doing here? A couple of years ago, on the other end of the spectrum, one of the Seattle starters was left in during a no-hitter. He'd thrown a bunch of pitches. He wondered why he was in the game. I have to believe that in 2/3 of an inning, when you allow 9 hits, Sem Robertsay at some point is saying, it's the second spring training game. What am I doing in here? And I can think that can cause a player to become disenchanted. I hope, well, we don't know how good Sem Robertsay is going to be, but I hope that he doesn't become disenchanted with the organization because they let him get beat up like that yesterday.
He's a competitor too, so you know he wants to be in the game for that amount of time to get that third out no matter what.
And I know you loved what you saw from Tekoa Roby yesterday.
Oh, he looked great. If he could stay healthy, Randy, he could be the real deal. He was throwing heat, and I mean high heat. Got 3 strikeouts, I believe, on the day too.
Yeah, and by the way, Roby last year only threw 38 1/3 innings. The year before that, 58 1/3. That's why Andrew says that it's important for him to stay healthy. All right, Chris Pronger was involved with the broadcast here on Matrix Midwest for the Blues on Saturday night, and our buddy Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic talked to him on Saturday morning and asked him about Colton Parayko because Prongs and Parayko had gotten together. And Prong said, enjoy what Colton Parayko gives you. I think that's really important because a lot of us expect, not a lot of us, a lot of you. I think Colton Parayko is what he is, and he's really good. But I think people expect him to be Chris Pronger, one of the greatest defensemen in the history of the world, and that's just not going to happen. Prongs would have to play a different game, but Prongs is one of the 5 best defensemen ever to play the game. Colton Parayko isn't at that level, but he's still great, and I think we need to appreciate it because I think he is underappreciated here.
He definitely is, because the expectation for Parayko is to be a true number 1 defenseman, and that's just not him. He's not a superstar, but what makes him really good at hockey is he does all the little things right. He's more times than not in the right place. He knows how to skate the puck coast to coast. He's a big body. He can be your big physical presence too, but he won't ever do the extra thing. He may not be Cale Makar, but he will always be good enough to be on Team Canada, performing for Team Canada, being on the ice for 19 minutes on the national team.
I thought it was interesting that Prong said in the Four Nations tournament there was only one real number one defenseman, and that was Cale Makar. Now you've got Hedman out there. I think Adam Fox is a number one, even though he's had a down year. But the point is there aren't many real number ones in hockey right now, and the Blues have a guy that number one on their team, pretty darn good. Let's talk soccer. Despite the 0-0 tie for St. Louis City SC and Stan Kroenke's Colorado Rapids? Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Okay, City was dominant. So you have to like the way they started their season, right? They only allowed 2 shots and neither of them were on goal. Defensively, they buckled down.
18 shots for St. Louis City as well. But I love that you brought up defensive first, because that is how Melberg coaches. So if it starts with the head coach and then progression kind of leads forward to the attack, that means they are claiming that identity early. And I like that about City. Just because they didn't net one doesn't mean that there weren't a lot of positives in this game. Now, what you could say for future is they need to win games like this, because this is what got them out of playoff position last year.
And they've been ascending throughout the course of the preseason, and then on Saturday night, even though they didn't score a goal, man, so many chances. They had 5 shots on goal. Andrew mentioned the 18 opportunities as opposed to 2. Roman Berkey didn't even have to make a save in this 0-0 tie. So you had to like what you saw on the pitch in the kits from St. Louis City SC on Saturday night. And I kind of have a feeling that this is a group, because as Jen Cease told us on Friday, they have so much better talent now. I think that this will be an ascending team throughout the course of the season.
I thought there would be some growing pains too with the third coach in 3 years, but it really seems like this team is starting to gel in the direction that they are trying to go. And if they can really start, like I said, with that identity and push that forward through that attack, this is a special season in the making for City.
And another sellout over at now Energizer Park. They've never had a game. St. Louis City has never had a game that wasn't sold out, regular season MLS game. The Yankees have had a no facial hair policy for years, but softened it on Friday with owner Hal Steinbrenner agreeing with St. Louis and Devin Williams. Williams showed up to spring training last week for the first time. He hadn't thrown a pitch in the majors without his beard. Didn't like it when he looked in the mirror. He talked to Aaron Boone. He talked to Brian Cashman. Ultimately talked to Hal Steinbrenner, and Steinbrenner agreed. So it was a St. Louis guy that was the driving force behind the Yankees finally allowing beards.
Well, Randy, I got out of the shower this morning and thought, gosh, I need to trim this bad boy up. But then I remembered, we're talking about the Yankees today. You need something that's a little well-trimmed. Although I don't know if you can tell, this is just scruff and it's all patchy. I would not make it on the Yankees. But it is a good thing that they are adapting to the times. I mean, that is just a decade-old law that needed to just be gone. It was outdated.
And you should allow stubble, and you should allow a well-groomed beard. You know, I didn't blame the Yankees for, like, Brandon Marsh of the Phillies, and that's got to be super uncomfortable, too. I don't know how these guys grow these beards and play with them during the summer. Charlie Blackmon, the former outfielder former Rockies outfielder. Now he's a former outfielder because he retired. Some of these beards, I just can't abide, and they look like they have bugs in them and stuff. So I understand the Yankees wanting to have, right now, a well-groomed beard. Brandon Marsh, take a comb to it once a week or something like that.
That one is scruffy. For him, that is a super scruffy beard, and I don't think I'd ever be able to grow something like what I would consider a motorcyclist beard.
All right, Cardinals first-round draft choice J.J. Weatherholt homered in his first MLB spring training game yesterday. Weatherholt was considered the best pure hitter in last year's draft. He was the best hitter in college baseball, but he wasn't healthy throughout the course of the season. Before the season, Andrew projected as the top overall pick, and he suffered injuries and he wasn't able to play. But he did play 3 years in college. He had 557 college at-bats. Seems like this guy has it together. His bat-to-ball skill is superb. And maybe he's closer to the majors than most first-year pros.
He loves being in the box. He loves being on the field. This is a true gamer. I'm with you. I think J.J. Weatherholt could be seen as early as this season if the Cardinals are doing what they say they're doing, providing that runway for young, talent. He is fast-tracking his way to the pros. You saw Ali smile after he banked that shot to left field. Yes, an opposite field home run for him. He can hit to all sides of the field. He's got great swing progression. He is just a true hitter, and he can play defense too. You saw him make a nice diving stop there early in the game.
And you know what's sad about this is that when he makes it to the majors, it's going to be as a second baseman, and they're going to have to do something with Brendan Donovan. And I don't think Donovan is very happy with the way things transpired with his arbitration hearing. And they'll probably try to move Brendan Donovan back to a utility role. I think he's better than that. I think Brendan Donovan is going to have to wind up being an everyday player for somebody. Cardinals, they might just have too many good players.
Does he embrace? Yeah, good one. Does he embrace wanting to go in left field, though? I mean, that's where he should be so that you can open up at least Gorman right now, keep his bat consistently in the lineup.
If Nootbaar is healthy, Nootbaar has to be in left field, right?
Or center.
But then you want great defense in center field, too. So it's going to be a real interesting conundrum that the Cardinals have to deal with. Those are your quick hits. Coming up, our weekend highlights. It was a busy weekend in St. Louis sports, from City to the Cardinals to the Blues. Almost feels like spring, and there's a lot of highlights coming your way on The Fight. All right, time now for what we loved about the weekend in the sports world. Andrew, why don't you get things started?
Let's go with this. The Jaguars have a new GM, and you may be saying, why does that matter, Andrew? Well, that's because James Gladstone, who's a St. Louisan and Vianney class of 2009, is hired as the GM of the Jags. Just seeing the reactions of people I know that know him really and personally to help identify the impact he has on the teams that he's been on. Things I've heard, best coach I've ever had, choosing to be respected over well-liked, a guy that put in his time but didn't need a lot to show his impact. He's great on the football ops side, great on the player development side, just an overall great fit for the current state of the Jaguars, and it's cool to see a St. Louisan in that role.
And the Jags are not moving here. They're getting a new stadium, a new $2 billion plus stadium in Jacksonville, but Vianney's Mark Lamping is the team president. Now they have James Gladstone of Vianney as their general manager. Shad Khan, of course, lived in Champaign and was a St. Louis Rams season ticket holder. There certainly is a St. Louis flavor to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that'll be a fun team to root for.
Yeah, I'm just really excited for Gladstone, too, being a guy that's like, what, 32 years old? Like, how many GMs out there are 32? It is incredible to see a guy just fast-track his way. We've been talking a lot about fast-tracking today. Fast-tracking his way to the top of the food chain there in Jacksonville. And Trevor Lawrence really needs some better guidance from the player development side of things, too, and maybe bringing in pieces to help him perform at that #1 pick level that they had just years ago.
My number 3 highlight from the weekend is St. Louis U's Amari McCautry. The freshman from Milwaukee took advantage of a thin Billiken bench and scored 13 points in their rout of Rhode Island. With the Billikens losing Larry Hughes the second and Kellen Thames this year, there are minutes to be earned off the bench for SLU, and McCautry sure did on Saturday. What a great job he did. 13 points, a team high this season for bench points for St. Louis U. Not only that, but their bench outscored Rhode Island's, and there's an opportunity for McCautry, who's a real specimen. He's got a chance to be a really good player. Good to see him getting things going, and SLU still has a chance to finish in the top 4 in the A10 standings and get that double bye because of their lack of depth. They need a guy like McCautry to step up.
100%. Jimerson got all of the popularity from the game over the weekend, but a guy like McCautry really made his name known because we know that deficiently, SLU is a team that doesn't have any depth, and that's been their biggest knock all season long. But when you get a performance like this out of McCautry, you can start saying as you head into the A10 tournament, wow, this is a team that can really go now 6-7 deep instead of just 5. They were a starting 5, and that was practically it for SLU this season. As for my number 2, Randy, what a weekend it was for just the St. Louis sports fan. The Billikens, the Blues, the Cardinals, City, Mizzou, all of these teams are back and professionally. The Blues showed resiliency. The Cardinals offered some answers, and City embraced new beginnings. But it was just cool to see how the pieces are falling into place. Though it may not be exactly what you want as a fan, there are some bright spots. There is some buzz. How to maintain it all over the course of the season, only time will tell. But after the restart, overall, just a fun state for the sports fan in St. Louis to be in. It feels like that time of year, like when playoffs are all happening in the fall and the NFL season is starting up.
How fun it was to have 5 of our teams playing on Saturday. My number 2 is MLB's use of the robot umpire. I wanted this for a decade, and all we need to do is get ball strike calls right. It's not that difficult, and we can prove how good the umpires are, too. The umpires should be embracing this. It adds to the drama and enjoyment of the sport, and bravo to Rob Manfred and the top rung of Major League Baseball. Let's get it into the regular season as soon as possible because it works. And yesterday, there was a situation with the Cardinal game where it was shown to be a strike. The umpire got it right. So, and we get to see it on the Jumbotron at the ballparks. The previous pitch has been reversed, or the previous pitch has been upheld. I think it's great, and the MLB is absolutely getting it right with ABS here.
It's a good feeling for a pitcher. It's a good feeling for the umpire to know that you accurately are calling the game effectively. And look, it's going to be fun watching even kids in Pee Wee just start tapping their heads because they're just joking around. It's fun for just baseball as a whole.
And Rick Horton made this point yesterday on the radio broadcast. There are people that habitually tap their helmet. I wonder if anybody will accidentally call for a challenge because it's their habit to tap the top of their helmet.
It's just that superstition. It's that tick. I mean, we saw that with a guy like, I think it was it Schumacher that always used to just do his batting gloves thing? And that's something, too, with a helmet. Somebody just touches their head because it's just the habit for them. Yeah. My number 1, Randy, how can it not be seeing the Blues right here on Matrix Midwest on Saturday? I know a lot of people that loved catching the game on a local channel. I spoke about buzz in my last point. This generated a lot of excitement because it came off of that Four Nations tournament where people were just ready to watch more hockey, and giving them that avenue here in St. Louis was not only perfect timing, but just good for the community. And if you did miss the Brett Hall 50 and 50, I'd recommend going back and trying to see it. Hopefully you didn't, and you could just experience it like I did for the first time because, gosh, did I wish I was born 15 years earlier, Randy.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. That 90-91 season was amazing, but it was also great to see the Blues back on free TV on Saturday night right here on Matrix Midwest. We have a couple of more games for you coming up in March, and it's fun for us because we love the sport to give you the sort of coverage that you as Blues fans deserve with a big-time, heavy-hitting post-game show and a real commitment to Blues hockey here at Matrix Midwest.
And it will just grow viewership over the years. I mean, hockey's a hard sport to grow. Now it's been easier now that the Four Nations just took place and people are just clamoring for more and more hockey. But it is good for the Blues to be on free TV.
And my number 1 is the return of Cardinal baseball. Now, it's not the typical anticipation we have for the Cardinals. Last year, you had a couple of guys that had won MVPs or been close to MVPs just a couple of years earlier. You were bringing in veteran pitchers. You had hopes that the Cardinals could win a division. That's not going to be the case in 2025. But one of my favorite things about sports is watching young players get better. And that's what Ollie Marmol and his staff's charge is. It's not necessarily to win games in 2025. It's to have individuals get better and have the unit get better as well. And with the youth movement, I'm intrigued to see who turns out and who doesn't. You know, we're thinking that all of these guys are going to work out. Well, if half of them work out, the Cardinals will be doing well. Normally, when you have great prospects in Major League Baseball, 50% is a good batting average. Can Nolan Gorman regain the stroke that allowed him to hit 27 homers and have an 805 OPS 2 years ago? Will Jordan Walker ever emerge? Will Lars Nootbaar stay healthy and live up to those peripheral numbers that he's put up over the years? What do the Cardinals have in J.J. Weatherholt and Quinn Matthews? It's great to start spring training where everybody thinks they have a chance. Even the Cardinal players think they have a chance this year. I'm just looking for them to get incrementally better as the season goes along.
You like watching players get better? I also think it's easier on these young players to try to get better when they are surrounded by others doing the exact same thing. There's a lot of pressure if you're on a really good team and you're a young prospect to then elevate your game and instantly become great. It's another when everybody around you is feeling the exact same way. So you're in good position if you're a St. Louis Louis Cardinal. It may not be what fans want today, but it is good for these young players to have that runway to be great.
And we're known as the best fans in baseball. We're knowledgeable. We're kind to the opposition. I think one of the things that would make us great as well is understanding that sometimes a youth movement, a reset, is a necessity in a market this size. The Cardinals aren't going to be able to spend $300 or $400 million like the Dodgers or the Mets can. They just are, from a market standpoint, incapable of doing that. But if you are a real fan, and not everybody is a baseball fan. Some people are fans of winning, and I get that. But if you enjoy the sport and you want to go see players hopefully get better, this is a great year to do that. That's why I'm going to go to Cardinal games this year. I want to see, like I said, Gorman get better. I want to see a guy like Mason Wynn continue to ascend. I want to see if Donovan can play second base. I want to see who emerges in the center field battle. I'd love to see Victor Scott make this team and see if he can be a legitimate center field. I want to see if a guy like Newt Bar can play every day. And then I want to watch that one-on-one battle. Once Quinn Matthews gets here, I want to see that one-on-one battle that Quinn Matthews has against Major League pitchers. There's a lot to enjoy about this Cardinal team, even though the end result on a nightly basis, the one-loss column might not be what we want. You'll be able to see what they're capable of in the future, and some teams have done it. The Royals did it and wound up winning a World Series. The Giants have done it in the past. They're working on that right now. There's some really good organizations. Arizona Diamondbacks were in the World Series 2 years ago that used the draft and develop method to become great, and that's what the Cardinals need to do.
Yeah, it's really fun because there's a lot of positives to take away of the Cardinals right now. We talked a little bit about J.J. Weatherholt. We talked a little bit about Roby. They had good spring training starts to their season. Victor Scott, I also thought, looked really strong. Like, he may have added, some 5-10 pounds of muscle onto him, which could just put him in better position to compete for a start in center field at some point this season. There are a ton of position battles to get excited about, and it's just an exciting season when you can kind of feel like you are the owner of this team. It's like when you're playing Major League Baseball, the show, when you have to get through some of those dog day years in order to make yourselves World Series champions. You can turn these guys into stars.
And by the way, it's only spring training. I know, Ollie, you're watching because you were the first guest ever on the show. When Victor Scott gets on base, he needs to run. When Mason Wynn gets on base, especially during spring training, he needs to run. Other teams aren't set up to defend the run, especially against somebody like Victor Scott, who stole 94 bases in the minors a couple of years ago. To be exciting, to be fun, the Cardinals are going to have to get those guys that can run running.
And there's not a lot of catchers out there in the league, Randy, that throw guys out.
Yeah, we have one that doesn't.
So just get them going.
Yeah.
Well, we have one or two. Sometimes Pajes is 50-50 on that.
6 for 59, not great. Those are our weekend highlights here on The Fight. Coming up, we need your help to make a parlay. We're going to each make a bet, and you can text in to help us out with your single bet on DraftKings for a game tonight. Text in 314-624-0414. It'll be Andrew, it'll be Randy, and it'll be the viewer/listener. So get us your bet on the text line with Risky Business as we build a parlay next in The Fight. All right, every day we build a parlay, and we want to have you participate. So if you ever want to help us build a parlay, just text in 314-624-0414, and you can make a bet with us. Andrew makes one, I make one, and you make one, and then we make a lot of money. Now, Andrew, I'm going to go a little bit off the grid here with my bet for this Monday. Table tennis on DraftKings. You can bet on table tennis. And starting in about 15 minutes or so, Michael Olbricht takes on Bartosz Czerwinski. Czerwinski coming in at -200. He's a big favorite here. And I'm going to go with Bartosz Czerwinski to knock off Michael Olbricht in table tennis this morning. So we're going to get things started early with our gambling in the parlay.
Trust him, he's an expert in this sport.
I Googled it. Yeah, I know.
I love it. I can't stop smiling because this is just so fun to me. I'm going to add in maybe a more reasonable play than table tennis because I don't know enough about it. So I'm going to go back to college basketball. Tonight's game, Florida A&M, Alabama A&M. You may be wondering why this game. They are Florida A&M, that is +1.5 at -125. The Rattlers, second best team in the country at covering the spread. They've covered it in the last 12 games straight, and Alabama A&M in this conference is the worst at covering the spread. So Florida A&M, 79% cover rate. Alabama A&M, 29%. I'm just a numbers guy, and this one seems like a good play.
I love that play. That's fantastic. By the way, Florida A&M, the alma mater of former Cardinal and Cardinal Hall of Famer Vince Coleman, who was a great punter for the Florida A&M football team.
I found that out at a trivia night, and I texted Randy at one point, and I said, hey, I got a question for you. And you know him, the human Google search. He texted back in seconds, so I know he didn't look it up. Seconds. And he goes, Vince Coleman. I'm like, yeah, okay, I could have used you at my table that night.
All right, we got a we've got a bet from the 636 on the text line. What do we got for our viewer/listener that's playing today?
Our texter is Joe, and he likes the Winnipeg Jets at -175 to win by 2 against the Sharks. We saw the Jets take on the Blues on Saturday. Very good team. The Sharks aren't a very good team, so this one seems like a safe bet, especially when the odds are that high for a 2-goal win.
Okay, so Bartosz Serwinski. Don't forget Bartosz Serwinski.
Lock it in.
All right, and also don't forget, we need you to build the parlay every day. What do we have here if we put 100 on this one?
So this is funny, Randy. Look, all minus odds. Normally we're not in this state of mind, so only $100 here will pay out $324.
All right.
$324. There's some good value there, though.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, I think that's great. So if you have an idea for tomorrow's bet, text us. You can also email us at thefight@matrixmidwest.com. All right, coming up, we have Take It or Leave It, plus birthdays and anniversaries on The Fight.
Serwinski.
All right, time for Take It or Leave It. And Andrew, I'm going to get things started with Justin Bieber, along with Steve Carell, played with Hockey Hall of Famers Rob Blake and Mark Messier and Cami Granato and Jeremy Roenick yesterday to help support relief funds for LA fires. The Kings and the NHL held their skate for LA at Crypto.com Arena, and they helped HELPED. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, good. See, I'm not very good at this.
It's all right, we're editing.
Skate for LA Strong with an R. There we go. Okay, the LA Kings and the NHL helped skate for LA Strong with all those players there. Justin Bieber played, but take it or leave it, Chris Pronger needed to be there. Chris had a hit on Justin Bieber in a celebrity game in the past. Oh, look at the look on Chris Pronger's face as he just flattened Justin Bieber. Take it or leave it, Prongs needed to be there as the Kings and the NHL helped Skate for LA Strong event.
I'll take it, but I think Justin Bieber would, of course, leave it.
I'm going to take it.
I think it's funny that you started the day with Justin Bieber. When was the last time you heard Randy Karraker say that?
Yeah, right. That doesn't happen very often. Although I listen to some of his songs. I think he sounds like Rihanna.
I'm sure that's a great compliment for him.
Or her. So, and then look, yesterday, Biebs got into a fight with Roenick. So that's pretty cool.
So he's just making enemies.
Oh, big time, yeah. So yeah, Prongs needed to be there.
I love that. On to my take it or leave it. I'm sure you saw this, but Ovechkin had a hat trick over the weekend, and now he's pretty close to catching Wayne Gretzky. He's 13 away, but there's only 25 games left. Take it or leave it, Randy. He does it by season's end.
I'm going to leave that. That would be a 41-goal pace, a little more than a 41-goal pace for a season. I don't think at this stage of Ovechkin's career he's going to be able to turn it on to that level, but early next season I can absolutely see him breaking the Great Ones all-time record.
I'm going to take it. I think Ovi is starting to get hot again. It's his time of year. Back end of the season, the Capitals are really good. They're making good playoff push and position, so they need Ovi to be at the top of his game.
Did have a hat trick the other night, and that was huge. He's amazing. I think he's the best pure goal scorer that I've ever seen. Bossy was awesome. Mike Bossy was fantastic, taking nothing away from Gretzky, but I think Gretzky, he wasn't a pure goal scorer. He was just a goal scorer. This guy is a sniper.
Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone would argue.
He's fantastic. All right, Director Tyler points out that over the weekend, the Pelicans hosted a baby crawl race during intermission. And it's this one named New Ballins. Let's see. Look at that one. Holy cow. Deserves an offer from a D1 school right now and will be a first overall pick 20 years from now. Talk about dominating. There's no doubt that we're taking that. Yeah, how about that? That is absolute dominance on the part of that baby.
Part of me wishes this was at the Hornets game versus the Pelicans, just so I can hear the Hornets announcer go nuts like he does on the broadcast for this baby as he goes coast to coast. I'm going to take it, too. Are you kidding me? That was the best baby crawl performance I've ever seen. Normally, they get to about mid-court, and they're like, I'm going to sit down.
Nobody else has even started.
I'm going to rest. I don't think a baby did start by the time he finished.
That's unbelievable. So, a number one pick in baby racing in 20 years, no doubt about it, although it won't be a baby anymore. Billikens, by the way, had their baby race the other day, too, and in a similar situation, there was one dominant force, and then everybody else is kind of left in the dominant force's dust.
I wonder how they train for that at home. You know you're building up for this moment with your child. Do you think they're practicing on the kitchen floor?
All the time, yeah. You got to have little snacks and everything, no doubt about it. That is Tioli here on The Fight, here on Matrix Midwest. All right, let's get some birthdays and anniversaries here. Cardinal coach Stubby Clapp, former Cardinal player, turns 52 today. Happy birthday to Stubby Clapp down in Jupiter. Ozzie Smith's high school teammate, Hall of Famer Eddie Murray, turns 69 today. Pretty good high school team with Ozzie and Eddie Murray. I don't know if you have to have anything else. It's pretty impressive.
Eddie Murray, great in the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, but
oh wait, that was Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy, yeah. Eddie Murray, not exactly a sweetheart, but a great Hall of Fame player. Zach Bolduc of the Blues, 22 today.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Zach. And our buddy, former NFL receiver, and now the president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater St. Louis, Brandon Williams. There he is right there.
Good dude.
He is 41, a great human being, and formerly in charge of the St. Louis Battlehawks, and doing great work now for our community. All right, time for some history, and there is some great history. In 1968, future Blue Gary Unger begins his NHL consecutive game streak of 914 straight games. He was an iron horse and held that consecutive game record for a long time. Think about playing 914 consecutive NHL games.
Hockey is the key word there. It's not like baseball where it's less demanding on your body. This is the hardest sport to play consistently, and even doing it this long is crazy. It's the unthinkable today.
And I'm so glad that he's in the Blues Hall of Fame, because Gary Unger was the guy during the early to mid 70s. Federico and Sutter showed up in 76, 77, but Gary Unger kind of carried the franchise and was clearly the face and the hair of the franchise during the early 70s. He was my guy as a kid. That was my favorite player when I was a kid. He was awesome. 914 consecutive games. In 1980, on this date, the U.S. ice hockey team clinches gold with a 4-2 win over Finland at the Lake Placid Olympics. This comes a couple of days after they had beaten the Soviet Union in the Miracle on Ice. I know that Andrew watched that movie over the course of the weekend, and Tyler is going to watch it, I think, today. And we're going to celebrate the gold medal for USA against the Soviet Union. USA, USA.
Look at all those college kids. College kids beating the best in the world. I showed my wife the movie for the first time this weekend. I couldn't believe she had never seen Miracle before. Man. But she loves true stories, and this was a situation where I said, hey, we're coming off the Four Nations tournament. You enjoyed watching USA, Canada. Just wait till I show you this movie. It will fire you up.
I still get misty-eyed at the speech. And I remember I was working at a self-service gas station when that occurred. It was a Friday afternoon, and the game wasn't shown live. The USA and the Soviet Union wasn't shown live in the United States. And Jack Buck is doing the sports on KMOX, and he gets the bulletin. He says, is this right? Because nobody thought the USA even had a chance, and the USA won the game. It's the highest impact sports moment of my life. Okay, here's what we got coming up today. The Cardinals take on the Mets down in Jupiter. And you'll be able to keep up with that one on MLB.com. Go Cardinals in that game. At noon today on MLB Network, the Pirates and the Phillies, so you can get your baseball fix at that game starting at noon. And tonight at 7 o'clock on FS1, this is where we are. We miss Monday Night Football. Michigan and Nebraska.
All right. Go Huskers.
You miss your Monday Night Football?
Of course I do. I'm missing football left and right all the time. But I'm curious to know if we'll see a little bit of Juan Soto on the box score today.
I hope so. Yeah, 426-foot home run in his very first appearance as a member of the New York
Money well
Mets.
worth it, right?
Oh, yeah.
That was worth $750 right there.
$765, whatever it is. Yeah, that's worth it. Hey, thanks for tuning in. For Andrew Rogers and our director, Kyler Klaus, I'm Randy Karraker. And tomorrow, we will see you right here on The Fight on Matrix Midwest. Have a magnificent Monday, St. Louis.